Hello Flosstube and welcome back to my channel. I am Ros Clark. This is Ros Clark Craft. This is my home in real life. This is my home here on YouTube. You can also find me as Ros Clark Craft on Instagram and Etsy. I think that's it these days. It's lovely to see you back here. I'm sorry it's been a little while. I didn't mean it to be quite so long, but you know how these things go. There's life and then there's life. Yeah, that's mostly what's been going on. So I haven't got loads to show you in this video. I've got a little bit of stitching. I've got the winner of my amazing Maison Su giveaway. I have got a recommendation. I have got some life to talk about and what I like to think of as a really big craft project, which is really DIY. So we'll see how we get on. It mostly is just going to be me chatting. I've got a Just So Sherry moment, so I'm not Sherry, but if you're not watching Just So Sherry, I mean you probably are. She's got 4,000 subscribers, so you know you probably are. She always does a little moment where she tells a story in one of her videos of something that's just been, yeah. Anyway, I have one of those moments to share, and let's crack on. So what have I been stitching? Well, I have been stitching this and I am super happy with it. This is my Maison Su little tin. So you get the chart, the floss, the tin, the sticker that goes around here, the finishing materials and instructions for how you do the top of this. I did really love it, and I do really love it. I think the thing I was very aware of as I was stitching this is not a beginner project. I mean, it's tiny. I thought, oh yeah, I'll definitely do that in a couple of hours. No. I've lost track now because it's a little while since I did this, but maybe a dozen colours, something like that in there. And a lot of, I was going to say spaghetti stitching, a lot of confetti stitching and quarter stitches and part stitches and back stitches. And it is not a beginner stitch. I love it. This part here on the pineapple is where you do cross stitches and then you go over those stitches in a different colour with a half stitch. So a little bit like, I've never done one, but what I assume a dimensions kit is like in terms of how you're building up those layers. And so some parts of this, you know, like I say, just one part of the stitch, one leg or back stitch, other parts where you're building up more than a single cross stitch on top. These patterns she designs on the based on fabrics from Versailles and I think particularly fabrics from Marie Antoinette's boudoir, but I can't remember if this specifically was one of those. And so she's trying to make her design as close to the original fabric as possible, and that's why the designs are so complex. So I can't remember how long it did. I mean, it wasn't more than 2 or 3 evenings, but it was not a quick, easy stitch, even though the total stitch count is not huge. You know, this piece is only 3 inches in diameter, and, you know, there's quite a lot of white space on it. So you'd think, how can that take so long? It really can. Anyway, on to the second one of these that I bought. You remember this had a slightly different design on the front. Go on, camera, you can focus on that. Yes, you can. You can do it. No, it's not going to though, is it? It definitely can. It's just definitely not going to. Oh, okay, anyway, this was the one that I bought as a giveaway. And a number of people commented, and I have used a random picker, and the winner of the giveaway is Karen Houston Rob 6437. Karen Houston Rob 6437. Do get in touch so that I can send you this. If you are a follower on Instagram, that's a great place. You can just DM me your address there. If you're not on Instagram, you can, what's the best thing to do? Leave me a comment to say, and then I will let you have my email address in a way that you can send me your mailing address so that I can post this out. I'm very pleased, actually. So many people, I'm glad it's not just me, just seem really bad and inefficient at posting and always say that in their videos. I'm very pleased to say that my local post office, which has been shut for months and months and months, is now open again. So there's a much higher chance that I will be able to get this in the post to you quite soon. But obviously I do need your address. So do get in touch with me, Karen. Great. So that's that. What else have I been stitching on? Really only one other thing, which if you're a regular viewer, you'll know I tend not to have loads and loads of whips. But I do often have more than one thing on the go. And technically I do. I have my full coverage on the go. Yeah, it's the 1st of June today. And I had a plan earlier in the year that I was going to always work on that the first week in the month. So I am going to try and get that out this week. That plan has not entirely been put into action every month. But I have been stitching on something else, which I think might have been a new start since I last saw you. I can't remember. I might have started it. But this is what I have been stitching on. And I am about a third of the way through this. And this is Pear Hill from the wonderful Artsy Housewife. Now, you might remember when she first sort of appeared on the scene and everyone started taking notice, she came out with Golden Delicious, was her sort of apple pattern. And then this one, Pear Hill, which has pears all over it. And a lot of people stitch Golden Delicious, and I do love it. But I really loved Pear Hill. And so this is the one I'm stitching. I'm stitching this. This is a Swanbay Fabrics Ada in Eleanor's Ivory. These are all silk threads. The yellows are NPI silks. The rest I think are mostly dinky dyes. There might be something else in there as well. What other silk threads are there? I might have a Gloriana. I can't quite remember now. They are all on floss drops and I don't have the things there. Anyway, I love it. I'm stitching this 1/1 on, I think it's 18. It might be 20 count, but I think it's 18 count Ada. And yeah, I really love it. I really love those colours. As is my wont, I am playing around with the colours and having a lot of fun with that. The bit that I'm not certain about, but I think I'm going to sit with for the moment, is these leaves. I don't know if you can really even see that they're there. These leaves against the green of the grass. There's not a lot of contrast, but I'm sort of hoping that once I get the rest of the plants in, so I want to just see, the thing I want to do next actually is the leaves on this side, and you can see the stalk there as it leads up to this flower. And hopefully that will make more sense of the leaves. And they don't need to like really stand out, but yeah, I hope that will work. Otherwise, I'm not quite sure what to do. I have got other options, but I'm not sure they're going to be any better than the one I've got in there at the moment. I might end up using a sort of non-silk thread, I guess. The one thing I haven't got any silk for is where the white outlines are going to be around the doors and the windows in the house. And I'm just going to use probably an overdyed of some kind, because apart from the NPIs, which are solid, all the other silks I'm using are overdyed in some way. So I think I probably will choose an overdyed for that. Anyway, so this is on Pear Hill. It has a sort of swiggly bit that comes up and over, and then there are more pears in the corners here and here. So like I said, I'm about a third of the way through. The colours I'm really enjoying. I'm enjoying working with the silk thread. I wouldn't say I love it more than working with cotton. So it's been fun to do that and kit up. I'm not sure I'm desperately going to, you know, look to kit up loads of things in silk thread in the future. I mean, I wouldn't not, but except that they are a lot more expensive and for me, not massively worth it. That's different from things that I would kit up in Soie 103 or Soie Sophine, largely because those are great for when you're on higher counts. They're finer even than one strand of stranded cotton. And so if you're working on those high counts, it's definitely worth having the super fine thread. But for this, you know, I can easily be doing this with cotton, and I think I would be enjoying it as much. So there we go. So that is literally all my stitching. I mean, I have done a reasonable chunk of this, but nonetheless, I have not been doing a lot of stitching in the last month or so. Shall I tell you what I have been doing? Well, about 2.5 weeks ago, I bought a shower curtain. Big deal. I don't normally talk about that sort of purchase here on my... I don't normally talk about purchases a whole lot at all, but I particularly wouldn't normally mention that, except that I bought this shower curtain. I'll put a picture of it here. It's a really nice shower curtain from Dunelm. If you're in the UK and you're interested to know, they're £14, or as one of my friends pointed out, about £500 if you do what I did with it, which is bring it home, decide you love it, decide it doesn't really go with your bathroom, decide you need to redecorate your entire bathroom. Yes, so that's really what I have been doing the last couple of weeks. And the bathroom is here and the door is shut, but I am just going to open it in the hope that you can see a little glimpse. Oh yes, you can. So that is what I have been doing. So the paint colour, I love that paint colour. It's a really rich, deep royal blue. It's from Valspar at B&Q. It's called Indigo Flame. I really love it. So I've been painting the walls. I also painted the ceiling. That also involved a certain amount of cleaning. And then I painted like the shelving unit you can see there, and the little shelf towel rack, and also the skirting board, and also, you can't see, but behind here there's a wall cabinet and a sink cabinet. I painted all of those that were sort of various shades of off-white and dirty. They are all now pure brilliant white, which looks really fabulous against the blue. This is a new, here we go, here, toilet roll holder, also from Dunelm in pink. This is where I keep my toilet rolls. Again, this is a really gorgeous bag from Dunelm. They have a whole little collection of storage bags in that bright red and pink with the yellow, and I kind of need to find ways that I can justify buying more of those, because they're really sturdy canvas and also fabulous. So I've been doing that. I have also, and you can't see, and I'm not going to move my camera so you can see, the tiles were already white. I had tile stickers over some of them, so I've taken all of those off and cleaned them. But there was a sort of layer, a little sort of strip going through the tiles of coloured, sort of long glass tiles. And there was sort of aquas. They didn't look awful, but they didn't really work with the new scheme. And I found, I'll put a picture here, some mosaic glass tiles in jewel colours that I thought would look fabulous. So I chipped off. I was like, can I do this? Can I do this? I've been watching a lot of DIY YouTube videos. Anyway, successfully chipped off the coloured tiles that I was removing without removing any of the white tiles. So that was very pleasing, except that in doing so, there's a lot of chiselling and hammering. The toilet, so the tiles are, the whole bathroom's very small because, whole house is very small. The tiles which were near the toilet then came away from the wall. Now, that had been an issue previously, and I'd had someone in to fix the toilet a few months ago with an issue with the flush. And he'd said, oh, it's coming away from the wall a bit. I'll put in some extra long screws and that'll hold it in place. And that obviously come out when I was doing the hammering. So that was fine. So I pushed it back. At the point where I pushed it back, there was an ominous sounding crack and water everywhere. So this was quite late one Friday evening. Anyway, got my brother to come over and turn the water off at the mains. I did not realise, so this is a top tip for you if you're watching this. Apparently, you can also turn the water off just at the toilet. I didn't know that, but you can do that. So I didn't actually have to have, it was fine. It was overnight. I didn't need to be running anything, but, it's worth knowing for the future. Anyway, so we did do that, but I don't think he managed to turn it off completely, because by the middle of the night it was really leaking again, and I spent quite a lot of that night mopping up the flooding in the bathroom to stop it flooding the entire house. Anyway, lovely plumber came in the morning, and he was great, and he came and took one look at it and said, yeah, the cistern's cracked, and showed me, and I mean, it clearly was. And I'm like, you can't fix that, can you? He's like, no, we can't fix that. So he's like, so what I could do is just turn the water off. You could still use the toilet because the bowl's fine, and just flush it with a bucket of water, but you are going to need a new toilet. Do you want me to do it now? And I'm like, yes, I do. Yes, I do. So anyway, I also have a new toilet. That wasn't really part of the plan, and was sort of, but you know, indirectly, because I was changing the tiles, also became part of the renovation. So there was that. So we've done a lot of painting, a lot of fixing of things that are left to do. Paint the bath panel. So I have tongue and groove wood paneling on the bath, so I can paint that. I've been putting off painting that because I'm going to do the floor. I haven't done there's still the mosaic tiles to do, and I need to redo the sink unit because the paint's already bubbling off that. I think the paint that I'd got worked really well on everything else, but I think for the sink unit, where it's obviously gets more moisture, I think it probably did need a different sort of paint to make that work properly. So I need to do that again. I need to do the mosaic tiles. I need to paint the bath panel. And what I need to do is put in a vinyl floor. So currently it has laminate. The laminate has not really survived the flooding very well. And what I really want is a bright yellow vinyl floor. So that's what I've got. I've got sitting just over there, that slightly intimidatingly 2.5 meters of bright yellow vinyl flooring, and I've got a friend who's going to come and help me put it in. Yeah, so that'll be exciting. And then when I've got that and I can see what it looks like with that amount of yellow in it, decide on my final choice of colour. I think I know what I want for the bath panel, but I want to wait because I've got a little sample of the yellow, but you know, a whole floor worth of yellow looks different. So anyway, that has been taking up most evenings and what time I've had at weekends, which has not been loads, for the last couple of weeks. So anyway, all of that comes with a cautionary note. Be careful when you buy shower curtains, because they can be surprisingly expensive, it turns out, for a £14 shower curtain. I also bought a new bath mat, which I haven't put down yet. And what else did I get? Oh, new hooks for over the door, and a little blue vase, which you can just about see in there. This isn't the final arrangement of stuff in there. But what I have discovered is that blue indigo paint, indigo flame, love it, is a perfect background for displaying my art. So there's already a thing in there, which I think I've shown you before, a sort of hanging thing that I did for necklaces. It's in really vivid fuchsia and orange, and has all my brightly coloured jewellery on it. I'm also wondering, you can just sort of see this piece in the corner here with the stripes, diagonal stripes. That's coffee stirrers that are painted and then glued onto that canvas. That might go in there. I've got another piece that is a really bright rainbow coloured colour wash collage that might go in there. But I'm also working on a piece that I was supposed to finish last term in art and I just didn't. But it's actually a mirror frame with really bright, bold florals decorating it. So that will definitely go in there. It makes me smile every time I look at my bathroom at the moment. And it has been quite intimidating. I'm not a natural DIYer. My normal limit, I can just about fill a hole where there's been a nail or a screw or something in the wall and sand it down, and I can paint. And that's more or less all I have done. Chipping the tiles felt like, yeah, this could go really badly wrong. And laying the floor feels quite terrifying. Although my friend who's coming to help has done it before and her bathroom looks great. And I looked at it and I'm like, okay, I would never have guessed, A, that it was vinyl, because hers is a, you know, wooden effect vinyl. I thought it was laminate in there. but B, that she had done it herself. And I'm like, okay, well, all right then. It was slightly disappointing. It turns out my bathroom is 2 meters 20 in length, and the vinyl comes in 2 meters width. So I had hoped that I could get just the 2 meters width, and then it only needs like a meter and a bit in the other direction. But no, I had to have 2.5 meters in order to get the full length. So I will have loads of extra yellow vinyl. So that'll be good. I was thinking if my sink unit still ends up looking awful after I've done it again, maybe I might use some of the extra yellow vinyl and do a sort of layer of that on top of the sink unit. I think it would look really funky. I don't think it would be straightforward to fit because it's got the sink and the taps and whatever, but I think it could look amazing. So anyway, so that is bathroom project. What else was I going to talk to you about? Oh yeah, recommendation. So I know I've mentioned this before. I much prefer stitching from a PDF pattern these days. I like that I can resize it to fit. I like that it's, yeah, I just find it easier by a long stretch. I like how easy it is to mark stuff off and do all of that. I generally stitch using markup RXP, not necessarily for really small pieces, but anything large I use markup RXP. And Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch, who again I'm sure you all watch because you know many times more subscribers than me, but she put out a video recently on a beginner's guide to markup RXP, and I wasn't going to watch it because I'm like, well, I'm not a beginner and I do use it and I know how to use it. Anyway, but I ended up watching it. It sort of, you know, came on autoplay after something else I was watching, and I was like, well, you know, there might be some tips and things. Anyway, turns out markup RXP can do a lot of things that I didn't know it could do. Who knew? Well, Elizabeth Ann Can Stitch knew. So one of the big things that I learned, I knew it had a feature where you could, instead of viewing individual chart pages, you can view the whole chart. But I've never seen it be useful because when you click on it, it's very far zoomed out. And it doesn't really show the symbols. It just sort of shows a very vague outline of parts of the pattern. And I'm like, well, that's a bit pointless. Anyway, it turns out you just zoom in and then all the symbols are there. And then you can stitch across pages without having to flip back and forward and check the, yeah, who knew? So that was really helpful. So I really would just recommend, if you are a markup RXP user, if you're wondering about being a markup RXP user, I would say go and watch the video and see. You don't have to do things in exactly the way that she does. Like I say, I've been using it for years without using many of those features. And, you know, a number of the features that she was talking about, I'm like, yeah, I can't see that I'm ever going to particularly want to do that. So, for example, she shows you how you can relabel the key so that instead of showing DMC numbers, you can put in the names of overdyed floss. Yeah, because if I'm doing overdyed floss, I already know what colours I'm doing and what, or I'm choosing as I go along. I can't see me ever sitting in and typing those all in to have them in the key, but you might be somebody for whom that's really useful, and that's fine. The key will have, or at least can have, I think usually does have, in my experience, a little colour box so you can see, oh yeah, that's the dark purple or the mid green or whatever. You know, it won't be precise, but it's enough that you can generally work out, oh yeah, that's where this is on the chart. And obviously you can set it so you can see where all those symbols are on the chart, and you know, so then you know which bits you're stitching and you can choose what colours. Anyway, it works for me without doing it, but you might want to do that, for example. So yeah, so I really recommend that video. I thought it was really helpful. That was my recommendation. Don't know what else to talk about. Maybe some plans. So like I say, I have been more or less only stitching when I'm stitching on Pear Hill. And that might continue until the bathroom is done. The bathroom should be done pretty soon. Although we're sort of at a pause at the moment because I don't want to do the floor until my friend can come around and help. And I'm not going to do the bath panel until I've done the floor. And I should do the sink unit. And I can't do the tiles until they arrive. So actually there is a little bit more space just now for some stitching. I do want to do Stacey Nash Clovis, and that might be my next cast on because it's relatively small. It was interesting, I was watching, who was I watching? Sally Flossie Sews and Grows, I think, I'm pretty sure, who was talking about the different sizes of the animal crackers depending on what count you stitch them on. I'm like, oh yeah, I don't want Clovis to be enormous. But actually I looked at the stitch count and it's like, I think it's 110 maybe high. So I was like, well, if I stitched it on 36 count, say, that's 18 in an inch, that's about 5 inches. That would be about right, I think. I might do it on a, what have I got? Have I got a 40 count, maybe slightly smaller, something like that. At one point I was like, oh, I could do it on 56 count. No, I'm not doing it on 56. Yes, I own some 56 count. No, it's not in the right colour anyway. And I'm not buying loads of 56 count just to stitch animal crackers. So no, we're not doing that, but we might do it on 40 count or 36 count. So I might start that next as a, I mean, the thing is, it's not a huge stitch count, but it is full coverage, so it won't be nothing to stitch. But anyway, I think that might be next. I also have got the Cotton and Twine box that I won from Mama Loves CGB, which is the Stitching Your Way to Happiness one, and I quite like to do that. I've got some spaces at the moment, sort of above my TV. Let me see if I can show you this. Yeah, there we go. There's a beam. And then above that, I have what I like to call my hoop gallery wall. And as you can see, there's a gap in it. Now, I do have something that I could move and put there. But also, I think Stitch Your Way to Happiness would be quite a nice thing to have up there. It would go next to, or I might move it. Yeah, you can't really see. The one sort of on the far side of the gap is also an Emma Congdon. Here Comes the Sun, which I really love. That was a Caterpillar Cross Stitch Club subscription box years ago. Anyway, so I might do that. So Stitch Your Way to Happiness, Clovis. The other thing I really, really desperately want to start is Cherry Magpie. I mean, I'm sure you've seen people stitching Cherry Magpie. Kerry from Roxy Floss Co stitched it. It looked amazing. Elizabeth Ankin Stitch is doing it with a whole group. I think maybe from Stitch North they started it. I have got even the called for fabric. It's a small piece of fabric. There will not be a big margin on it, but that's okay. I can work with small margins. I do need to make sure I go and do an overcast stitch around the edge of that because there will not be room for a lot of fraying, but that's okay. I just think that'd be super fun to do. And I've been thinking about cross stitch finishing at the moment because I've basically run out of spaces to put things, and I do a certain amount of not precisely seasonal, but just changing up of my display as I feel like it. But there isn't loads, and I do really love finishing in other ways, and finishing in ways that you can sort of have on display, but you can't see everything at once. So like books that you can have on the bookshelf, so they're not hidden away, but you have to take them out and look at them in order to see everything. And I haven't done a cross stitch book for ages. I've sort of got the one that I'm working on with the Song of Songs images. So there's a couple of modern book embroidery pieces in there and a Liz Matthews piece in there. And that's a long-term project that I plan to do 1 or 2 a year. And I don't feel like now is the point where I want to do that. But I'd like to have something that I can take pieces like Pear Hill and Cherry Magpie and, pieces that are that sort of size, sort of a 6x8 kind of size, maybe an A5 kind of size when I've stitched them, and be making some kind of book with them. So watch this space on that. I don't think I have anything else. There was something else I feel like I was going to talk to you about. I can't remember. Oh, new glasses. That is what I was going to talk about. I've got new glasses. Can you see? New glasses. I like my new glasses. I mean, probably you've been looking at my new glasses all the way through. I mention them because, A, I love them. These are from Specsavers. They're Levi's. Frames are about £100, I think, something like that. My glasses are the kind where the frames are always the smallest part of the cost. So I tend to splash out on frames because I feel like if I'm spending £400 on a pair of glasses, I don't care if it's then £450 for nicer frames. I might as well do it. Specsavers now have a thing which I really enjoyed. When you're looking at their online shopping, you can browse all their frames. It will do a sort of live video of you in the frame, so you can then look from side angle and above and whatever, and you know, see it from a distance and look close up. And so that was good. So I had tried on a number. So when I went to the store and had my, you know, new prescription or whatever, and I had a super helpful assistant this time who, you know, normally I find you just like, oh, go and have a look and find some frames you like and then we can talk about it. But actually she went through, before we did that, she went through the kind of lenses I'd had previously, the kind of frames I'd had previously, what had worked, what hadn't worked, what she would recommend. She did a really good job of recommending I didn't spend quite as much money this time because the lenses that I'd had hadn't been actually the easiest to get along with. And she's like, I think you'd find the cheaper ones slightly better. So that was good. And then she was like, what have you thought about styles and what you're looking for? And I said, well, I definitely like plastic frames better than metal. And I'm looking for something quite bold and probably something a bit rounder than my previous ones were much more rectangular. And I've seen these ones online, and can we go and try those first? And she's like, yes, let's go and try those first. But also then was really good at identifying other things I might want to try. And several of them were really great. And we looked at, you know, we ended up with sort of 3 or 4 options. And in the end, I did go back to these. They're so comfortable. Sometimes you just put on a pair of glasses and they fit. And that's a big deal. I mean, you know, they can make adjustments and stuff, but yeah, and they are different from what I've had before, and I really like them. Anyway, but the thing I wanted to say, which was sort of stitching related with respect to these, very exciting. So for years now, I've had varifocals, and my near sight is getting worse much more quickly than my distance vision. They're both getting worse, but my near sight's getting worse. So I find that after a few months, I can no longer stitch in my varifocals. But just right now, I can stitch in these and then look up and watch Flosstube, and then stitch and then watch Flosstube without having to take my glasses on and off. Hooray! So that actually has been a huge thing. It means that if I'm watching something I actually really want to watch, I don't then think, oh, but I can't stitch as well, because that'll be super annoying to have to keep me taking my glasses on and off. And, you know, if there's something coming up, I can't always get my glasses on quickly enough to, and then refocus it. Whereas in these, I can just look up and it's there. So I do highly recommend, if you are struggling with your stitching and your YouTube viewing at the same time, go and see if you need varifocals. And if you do need varifocals, just make sure your varifocals are up to date. I know it's expensive. You know, I haven't had new glasses for 3 years, and so that's why I've been dealing with it for a while. I don't know how long these will last with both prescriptions. If you're somebody who doesn't have short sight and you can just buy reading glasses from the supermarket, I envy you, because you can have loads of pairs of glasses. I've always wanted to be the sort of person who has glasses for every outfit, but with my eyesight, I would need to be substantially better off than I am for that to become anywhere near a possibility. But if you only need reading glasses and you can buy cheap ones, just get reading glasses that go with every outfit. Why wouldn't you? But yeah, it does make a real difference to stitching. I think, you know, magnifying lenses are great, and magnifying lights even better, but there is something about having actually the right glasses as well that makes a huge difference. So that is my tip for the day. New reading glasses, get your eyes checked out. What was my other tip? I can't remember. I had a really good DIY tip, but you'll have to, you know, go back and rewind and check what that was. Karen, don't forget to get in touch with me with your address for your Saju tin. and I'll see you soon, hopefully with more stitching. Take care, everyone.